Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're stepping right into a really profound and honestly pretty unsettling philosophical allegory. I want you to picture yourself as a weary traveler, wandering through a grim, dark, rain-slicked city. You're completely exhausted. Exhausted by the constant demands of growth, the painful struggles of life, and the heavy weight of your past. You're desperately looking for an escape, right? A place to finally just rest. But the guide waiting for you in the shadows of this Gothic fable isn't offering rejuvenation. He's offering a terrifying kind of peace.
This guide is known as the Ghastly Ghoul of Revelation. The source material describes this uncanny figure as a ghostly static monument to the void. So right off the bat, we know we aren't dealing with a typical monster. The ghoul is actually a brilliant symbolic critique of extreme comfort and intellectual stagnation. Let's explore exactly how this deceptive entity preys on the weary mind.
Okay, part 1, the City of Mirrors. Let's dive right in and establish exactly where we are.
Our fable takes place in a highly visceral, atmospheric setting. It's a rain-slicked city of mirrors in the mud. Imagine walking down these dark streets. Every single alley you pass reflects a cosmic mystery, completely overwhelming your senses. You're carrying the heavy weight of old failures. And in this state of utter exhaustion, you're desperate for relief from what the text calls the agonizing logic of the crucible. You know, that painful, fiery process of personal growth and transformation. And well, that is exactly when the ghoul strikes.
Which brings us to section 2, the drive toward death. We really have to understand what the ghoul is actually offering here.
The ghoul operates using a dark, very real psychological force known as the Thanatos drive. This is a seductive, relentless pull toward the end of all becoming. It's that profound, creeping desire to just stop trying, to reject personal growth entirely and embrace a kind of clinical detachment from the world. It's the ultimate rejection of life's struggles, pulling the secret toward a final cessation of all internal conflict. It doesn't heal the soul at all. Rather, it freezes it into a permanent, unchanging state.
Moving on to part 3, architecture of the trap. Let's look at the actual mechanics used to ensnare the mind.
The ghoul traps its victims using deceptive terms called sovereign laws. But these are basically contracts written in disappearing ink. The ghoul promises you peace and absolute order, but the terms are chilling. You must leave no footprint. You must completely surrender the I. This is absolutely crucial to understand as a cautionary fable for modern seekers. The price for this ultimate comfort is the total erasure of the self. The sharp edges of your memory soften. Your past failures transmute into the harmless dust of the old world, and that agonizing logic of growth is replaced by absolute stillness.
And this trap isn't just a metaphor, it has a terrifying architecture. The source describes Apollonian gaskets. Picture infinite nested circles of dense, unmelting glass. It's a cold, unyielding cathedral of rigid, frozen logic, specifically designed to bind your fluid spirit. Time literally ceases to pass in here. And absolute stillness is worshipped as the highest form of motion. Actually, ancient thinkers actively avoided this kind of static comfort. They knew that true wisdom required engaging with the messy, flowing nature of reality, not locking it away inside an impenetrable glass prison.
So, section 4, the illusions of progress. If this is a trap, why do people willingly stay?
The trickery here is masterful. The trap is disguised as spiritual ascension. First, the ghoul projects these flickering masks of evolution onto the glass walls, tricking you into believing you're making progress. Second, you gaze into the mirrors of the hollow souls, where you see this perfectly curated reflection of yourself, radiating universal harmony. But it's a complete mirage. This isn't an ascent. It's step 3, a deeply disguised descent into the great evening of consciousness, slowly fading away into the terminal void. That feeling of ascending to divinity? It's merely an illusion. You're simply marveling at the geometry of gilded cages. And as your sense of self slowly disappears, your limbs grow heavy. They literally turn back into the very dull lead you originally sought to escape. You haven't transcended anything. You've just become a heavy, lifeless fixture of the cage.
Part 5, the Tomb of Contentment. This brings us to the horrifying finality of the ghoul's process.
I absolutely love this striking phrase from the text, the pious cow of contentment.
When you surrender to the Ghoul, all those agonizing, beautiful questions of identity and creation just evaporate. The total lack of internal conflict transforms you into this completely docile entity. It's tragic, really. You mistake absolute paralysis for divine grace. Let's break down the grim reality of this hollow perfection. You're sitting in a flawless, numbing embrace. It is literally a tomb of one's own making. The will to struggle is fully extinguished in the eternal quiet of the stone. Yes, you are utterly perfected, but you are completely dead. Your individuality has dissolved entirely into the silver reflection of the mud. It's such a profound warning to anyone today who seeks total comfort at the expense of their own drive to grow.
All right, Section 6, Fire versus the Frost. This illustrates the core philosophical conflict of our whole deep dive.
We have two ultimate forces here. On one side, the true red specter. This entity represents the fire of imagination. It uses the painful logic of the crucible to melt the dull lead of history into a life-affirming mythos. Think of the greatest historical figures, artists, innovators, leaders. They didn't hide. They embraced conflict and allowed the fire of the crucible to transform them. On the exact opposite side, we have the ghastly ghoul. Driven by the Thanatos drive, it offers petrification, clinical detachment, and a hollow, numbing perfection. It's a stark, brutal choice: the agonizing, transformative fire of growth, or the terminal, silent frost of stagnation. Which leaves us with this final thought. The source text wraps up with the perspective of the moon spirit, an entity that watches this whole struggle with complete, chilling indifference. To the moon spirit, the noble silence of the stone and the ignoble fire of the crucible both eventually return to the raw potential of the void. So the question isn't about cosmic permanence at all. It's about how you choose to exist right now. Is the noble peace of the stone, that ultimate comfort and total lack of struggle, truly worth the death of your spirit? It's a question that directly challenges our modern obsession with comfort, leaving us to wonder if the painful struggles we try so hard to escape are actually the very things keeping us alive.